Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to a brand new legal breaking reporting and video analysis update. Democratic governors, both from the state of California and the state of Oregon, have vowed to stop Donald Trump in the courts dead in his tracks from using the California State National Guard against Oregon citizens in violation of Judge Karen Immergut's court order that she issued yesterday, barring him and his administration from using and activating 200 National Guard soldiers to the city of Portland to fight, quote, war-ravaged criminals, even though currently there's no wars, no nothing going on. Protests, ladies and gentlemen, have been peaceful. No fires have been happening. No nothing. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get into this reporting by WTOP News. Ladies and gentlemen, the article reads, it's titled, Democratic Governors Vow Fight After Trump Sends California National Guard Members to Oregon. And ladies and gentlemen, that article reads, President Donald Trump is sending California National Guard members to Oregon after a judge temporarily blocked his administration from deploying that state's guard to Portland, and the Democratic governors of both states pledged Sunday to fight the move in court. A Pentagon spokesperson said in a statement that about 200 federalized members of the California National Guard who had been on duty around Los Angeles were being reassigned to Portland. Oregon Governor Tina Kotek said about 100 arrived Saturday, and around 100 more were en route Sunday. Kotek said there had been no normal communication with the federal government about the deployment. California Governor Gavin Newsom's office said about 300 previously federalized California Guard members were ladies and gentlemen, could eventually be deployed. The events in Oregon come a day after Illinois' governor made a similar announcement about Trump's troops. Ladies and gentlemen, about troops in his state being activated. Kotek said the latest move by federal officials is an attempt to circumvent Saturday's court ruling that blocked deployment of Oregon's Guard members. Quote, the facts on the ground in Oregon haven't changed, unquote, Kotek said. During a news conference Sunday, quote, there is no need for military intervention in Oregon. There is no insurrection in Portland. There is no threat to national security, unquote. Oregon Attorney General Dan Rayfield said in his state, along with the city of Portland and California, is seeking an amended temporary restraining order against the deployment of any National Guard troops. Quote, what was unlawful yesterday is unlawful today, unquote. Rayfield said, quote, the judge's order was not some minor procedural point for the president to work around like my 14-year-old does when he doesn't like my answers, unquote. Rayfield added that, quote, Oregon will absolutely not be a party to the president's attempt to normalize the use of the United States military in our American cities, unquote. Newsom, a Democrat, said in a statement that California personnel were on their way Sunday and called the deployment, quote, a breathtaking abuse of the law and power, unquote. He said these troops were, quote, federalized and put under the president's control months ago over his objections in response to unrest in Los Angeles. The commander-in-chief is using the U.S. military as a political weapon against American citizens, unquote, Newsom said. Trump deployed California National Guard troops to Los Angeles in June to enforce immigration law and have no legal grounds to redeploy them to Oregon for another purpose. Sunday's court filing states, quote, they cannot continue to hold the federalized National Guard members hostage by altering their mission and sending them to another state, unquote, the filing said. The lawsuit notes that the president has the authority to deploy National Guard troops under very specific circumstances, repelling an invasion, suppressing a rebellion, or enforcing federal laws. Quote, there is no rebellion in Portland, the filing said. The U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement building in Portland has recently been the site of nightly protests. A Trump appointee, ladies and gentlemen, a Trump-appointed federal judge in Portland on Sunday temporarily blocked the Trump administration's plan to deploy the Oregon National Guard in Portland to protest federal property amid protests after Trump called the city, quote, war-ravaged, unquote. Oregon officials and Portland residents alike said the description was ludicrous. The protest was relatively small and localized to just one block of the city of 650,000 residents, Kotek said. U.S. District Judge Karen Immergut, a Trump appointee during his first term, issued the order pending further arguments in a lawsuit brought by the state and city. She said the relatively small protests did not justify the use of federalized forces and allowing the deployment could harm Oregon's state sovereignty. California Attorney General Rob Bonta said the president is specifically targeting cities that lean Democratic, unquote, or have led, ladies and gentlemen, leaders and residents who speak out against the administration's abuses of power. Quote, it's our National Guard. California's National Guard, not Trump's Royal Guard, as he seems to think, unquote, Bonta said during a Sunday evening news conference. Quote, Trump cannot use our military troops as his own personal police force. Portland Mayor Keith Wilson said Sunday that he saw federal agents engaged in what he described as unjustified use of force and indiscriminately spraying pepper spray and ladies and gentlemen, munitions during a protest outside the ICE facility. Quote, there is an aggressive approach trying to inflame the situation that has otherwise been peaceful, unquote, Wilson said. Portland has alerted the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice to the agent's actions, Wilson said. Trump has characterized both Portland and Chicago as cities rife with crime and unrest since the state of his second term. Ladies and gentlemen, since the start of his second term, he has sent or talked about sending troops to 10 cities. Trump authorized the deployment of 300 Illinois National Guard troops to protect federal officers and assets in Chicago on Saturday. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker's office said the situation in Chicago does not require the use of the federal, and as a result, ladies and gentlemen, of the federal, require the use of the military, and as a result, the governor opposes the deployment of the National Guard under any status, unquote. Pritzker didn't receive any calls from federal officials about the deployment, his office said. Weber reported from Los Angeles and Brooke from New Orleans. Associated Press, Jennifer McDermott in Providence, Rhode Island, and Josh Boak, B-O-A-K, in Washington contributed to this report. ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for this legal breaking reporting. Shout out to WTOP News, as well as Weber, Jennifer, and Josh, Boak, B-O-A-K. Appreciate you guys for putting out this report, and so much more. Thank you guys so much for what you guys do. Thank you guys so much for bringing exclusive top breaking news. You guys are awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, if you did enjoy this video, please subscribe for more legal breaking reporting videos. And please stay safe out there.